Madonna. How do I look? Anyway, Gary, great job. I mean, it's hard to just get it out there and let people really see what's happening. I think you guys have done a heck of a job, so thank you. And I think those kids were great too, huh? All right. Can you smell those aromas coming from that Grossi's restaurant that's over there on Bridgeport? Oh, Ken's over there. Thank you, Ken. Well, it gives me a great pleasure to now introduce the keynote speaker tonight. It's pretty incredible that he's even here. Again, I met Sheila, was able to introduce her to one of my friends. He got kind of excited about this project. He said there's only one guy out there that can help to bring about not only the dream, but the funds, if you will, and to show the people here, that's the board and everybody involved, how to get things like this done. And this gentleman has been in the kids business with the Boys and Girls Clubs in South Puget Sound, and probably some other areas that I'm not familiar with, for over 40 years. And about 4 months ago, I went to a Boys and Girls Club banquet, awards banquet, and I was touched by the success that some of those kids had by going through that particular program, the Boys and Girls, and the successes at the different colleges that they were going to. And those are kids that probably might not have done anything even close to getting through school. So this isn't just about a dream. This is about touching kids and their futures, and basically our futures. So without further ado, one of the great guys in this business, all the way up from Phoenix, Arizona, Mr. Gary Yazwa.
It gives me that big build-up. Well, just thanks for inviting me, number one. Number two, I'm going to tell you a couple stories because I like to tell stories. And I'm going to tell you a story about an 8-year-old boy who grew up in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. And they started a boys club 3 blocks from his house. I was the 8th kid standing in line for that building to open up. That club changed my life forever. Never would I ever dream what took place there would impact me the way it has. Little Italian guy with a dream, and this is what we're talking about today. How do you take a dream and turn it into something real? And make it real to a community they want to get behind it and support it. Because children need adults to help carry the water, if you know what I mean. So all of you need to think about is just one. It takes just one person. Don't think somebody else is going to help. Don't think somebody else is going to do it for you. Everybody's got to participate in every community to make something like this happen. This in reality might be a $20 million project when it's all said and done. How do we get to that? How do you get the land? How do you get the building built? How do you get the staff? How do you get the partners in the building to run the programs? How do you get the participation of the community to be on the board of directors, to make the contributions? These are all things that have to be brought to the table by people in the community. The community response, the relationships that you all have in this community is what makes this dream come true. So everybody, when I talk to you, I don't talk in overlooking people. I say everybody here can have an impact. Some are greater than others, but everyone knows somebody. That's what I always say. People say, well, I don't know anybody. Everybody knows somebody. So that just takes one. That would be my motto for the community. It just takes one person to start the ball rolling, which was Sheila. Sheila started putting together a board. They're excited. Now you're seeing other people getting involved to build a picture for you. But what is it going to take after that? It's going to take the whole community to rally around purchasing that land and starting to put the plan in motion. So what would this community center do? I was just thinking about things that I wrote down here. Why would we want a community center? Because you can share a facility. Rather than everybody trying to build their own facilities, you put people in here where we can share facilities, share talent, share resources, share everything that was in the community that we want to have, but everybody can't pay for on their own. To me, that's a very important component to this. Because, you know, you can't build everything for everybody. So this gives you an opportunity to put in a youth center, to put in some community space, to bring other partners in, other nonprofits that might have a service that you need in this town that could provide that service where you don't have to pay for it. They already have the people available to provide that service. So you've got to reach out to other people. Who here in this whole area might say, hey, we want to be in University Place, but we've never had an opportunity to put our place to come. So how do we get there? How do we open the door to bring these people in so they can become a part of this? So that's one of the things. Leveraging. How do you leverage a facility like this? How do you get the city involved? How do you make it so grandiose and important that the city says, you know, we need to make an investment in this? They're serving our kids. In most communities, I would say that most cities build these community centers and then they operate them. Well, in this community, that's not going to happen that way. But there's got to be a role for the city to play here to help support this so it gets off the ground. And I think they're already involved in that. But how else can you sit down with them and what are the things they could bring to the table to assist you? Whether it's getting people involved, knowing people in the community have some resources to help, those are all things that you want to have. How do you get people to sit down in a community and start talking about what would you like to see here? You know, how do you, this group here, you all probably have said, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we had this in our community? What is missing here that we should have? Could it be a part of this dream? That's the kind of stuff I think everybody wants to hear from you guys, because that's important. If you don't have community buy-in, it's hard to sell this. It's hard to sell this. So your participation and ideas are valuable. And I would say to Sheila and the board, they want you to talk to them about what you think we need here. It's important. So don't think that, oh, they got this thing all figured out already because you saw some drawings. It's not all figured out. That's part of the dream. The real programmatic side comes later when the resources are there. This shared facility, cost efficiencies, that's another one. I can tell you is, when we ran the Boys and Girls Club, spending money was critical to us. How do we leverage our dollars? That's why we didn't build standalone Boys and Girls Clubs anymore. For me, it didn't make sense to just have a Boys and Girls Club that after 3, before the club opened, it was empty, and after the kids left, it was empty. Didn't make sense. So we brought in other organizations that used it all day long. So they would pay for some rent. They would help support programs. They would do a lot of the things that you would need to do to leverage the use of that building. And make it something that people said, hey, you know what? I've got a service club that wants to put on a little meeting. We have a meeting space here. Come on and do it here. We have a kitchen. You can use our kitchen. It's a Rotary Club. It's a Lions Club. It's a Women's Club. We need to do a presentation for kids. We can do it there. So having that relationship in the community with whoever runs this is going to be critical to the success of the operation. That's the other people. Who are the operators going to be? How do we find people that we believe in, that will do a great job in performing the programs that we want to see in the community? That's another critical point that I think would be real valuable to have input from the community. You guys all know who's out there in the community right now. And the last part I think that's real critical is, how do we find resources? How do we make this real to everybody here that it can be done? Because if you can't make this real and you're talking generalities for 6, 8, 10 months, people start dropping off. So we've got to take the dream. We can't be talking about land for the next 2 years. We got to say, hey, we've got the land. We've bought the land, or we've partnered with somebody that has land and wants to give it to us. But we've got to have a foundation that takes us to the next step. So these steps have to be built on a regular basis and monitored so you can see progress. And eventually, somebody in this community is going to want to leave a legacy to University Place. So think about that. What is your legacy? What is the legacy of the people that have lived here all their lives? What have they done to make this community better? And if you know they've been here a while and you know they have resources and you know have the capacity to help, how do we get to them? How do we get them to help us? How do we ask them, what are you going to do to leave a legacy here, John? You've been here for 40 years. Come on, you can help. You've got to have the willingness to ask. And that's the most scary part for everybody. Well, I don't know if I can ask my friend to give me $10,000. It's hard, but guess what? We train you how to do that. It becomes real easy. Anybody like asking for money? Put their hand up. Hey, look, I got one hand out of, what, 100? So don't be afraid to say, how can I help? How can I get involved in this thing? Because you can bring something to the table. Believe it or not, you just can't expect everybody else to do it. You see this vision. Sheila and her group's here. They've got little name tags on the table where you can put your name down and phone number to have them contact you so you can talk about what you think needs to happen here and then maybe how you can be involved. To me, that's the critical piece of how we move forward. What do you think, Dave?
I think you're rolling, brother.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to take this story a little bit longer, a little in a different direction. So coming here, I came from Pittsburgh. I went to Phoenix for 20 years. 20 years when I got to Phoenix, we had one little building as big as this room. When I left, we were in 8 cities, had $11 million budget, and we're serving 12,000 kids. And I'm going to tell you, the day I got there, they told me, you can't do nothing here. Because Phoenix, the Phoenix Metropolitan Boys and Girls Club, had the whole area covered. We were on the east side of Phoenix, and we said, no, we can do this. We went out and got people involved that lived in these communities that were never asked. This is the reason nothing happens. People don't ask people to help. So we went out and got a whole new group of people, and I drove around Phoenix. When you know what was developing there, I see all these developers, DC Homes, C.W. Jackson Homes, everybody's building. So I would start knocking on doors and saying, listen, I'm going to get one of these developers to help me. I sat in this guy's office. This is the same kind of story for Carol Milgore. This is another good story. I want to give you another good story. But I sat in this guy's office. I came in. I called him 6 or 7 times. He told me, I don't have time. I drove by his office. I drove in. I sat in his office. I told the secretary, tell Mr. Jackson I'm not leaving until he sees me. So I sat. He made me sit there for 2.5 hours. And I know he wasn't doing anything. So I sat there. He says, well, what do you want? I said, I want you to come take a look at this Boys and Girls Club. And if you don't want to help me after that, I'll leave you alone. He drove down there. He saw we were in a little dump. And this was a dump. They had swamp coolers. This was the gym. What you see right here, we had a little hoop at the end, a little hoop at the end. We had a couple of little crafts rooms on the side. That was it. And there was 200 kids in this building every day. It was a disgrace. I said, Mr. Jackson, you see what you're looking at here? See all those kids? They deserve better than this. He looked at me, he said, all right, let me think about what I can do. So he went home, he came back, he calls me the next day, he says, listen, I'm going to help you. So he said, come on over, I come on over. He lined up 3 or 4 people right away to help us. Within 2 years, we had a 22,000 square foot new building on that site, which he totally got people involved to give the money and to build the building. From nowhere. So I'm trying to make it real to you now when you say, could we do this? When I came up here, there was 5 boys and girls clubs, all fighting amongst each other, not organized. They all had the potential to leverage the community. 5 clubs in Tacoma, all east side, south end, all fighting for $1,000. So I said, you guys need to merge together. We need to be one ask and do it together. So we brought them all together. We started asking for some serious money. That's when I ran into Carol Milgore. They said, you'll never get the Milgores to help you. They don't know us. So I said, well, I'm going to try. So I got a list. So what do? You get a list of people that you all know that live here that could help. You're not going to hit 100%, but you got to start calling them and start trying to meet with people and make that happen. So anyway, I called her, Carol, on the phone. I called her for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. And she says, I leave her the phone message. Carol, This is Gary Yazwa from the Boys and Girls Club. I'm going to be calling you every day for the next year until you call me back. 10 minutes after I left that message, she calls me back, and here's her exact words. What do you want, you pest? Same story. Carol, all I want you to do is take a tour and see what we're doing. I took her over to the East Side Club. The beauty of this was, we're coming up to the front door. I got 3 kids running out that front door. 4th kid's running right behind him, and they see Carol. He runs back to the club, holds the door open, and says, "Welcome to our club." She turns around, looks at me, she says, "You mean you teach manners here?" You know what she cared about? Manners and character. She didn't care about the gymnasium. She wanted to know that these kids are learning how to respect the people and the people that are here. And so she takes the tour. I said, "Well, what do you think, Carol?" She says, "I love what I saw. Gary and I were going to start our own youth center. We don't need to do that anymore. We know what we can do." Next day, I get a check for $50,000. She says, "I'm going to bring Gary down to see your club." He comes down, takes the tour. 2 days after he's there, I get another check for $100,000. Now, I'm not asking for money yet. I'm just showing them what we got. Then they both get together and say, "Let's sit down and talk. What do you need?" And we start talking about all the renovations that all these clubs need. All the programs that we were behind on that we didn't have the staffing to support. What is that going to cost? So she asked me to put together budgets and information about doing that. And so that's what I did. So when you look at this, that's the kind of information we got to pull together. What is it going to cost to operate something like that? How are we going to make that go? And how do we sustain it? See, it's more than just building it. Building is pretty much always the easy part. It's how do you keep running that baby? How do you keep running it? And that's where all of you can have some input on that. So we ended up doing that, and instead of building clubs then, we renovated all our clubs on the first go-round, and then we ended up building community centers that had Central Latino in there, we had health department in there, we had dental clinics in there, we had service clubs in there, we had the Korean Women's Club in there. We had any group that could provide service that we didn't have to pay for. They would actually service our kids and our families. How do you beat that? But they needed a home, and we gave them a home. And that's what this could do. This could be the same kind of situation where other partners want to come in and say, "You know, I don't know what the Y is doing. I don't know if you talk to anybody at the Y, the boys clubs, the health department. There's a dental program in the state that comes and goes into places like this." So those are all things that need to be fleshed out in a plan. And all this will come to reality. There'll be numbers on all this at some point in time, but the most important part to me is building the plan and working the plan. And when I say that, I'm going to give this to, but plans take, you know, it took us almost 18 months to put our plan together. So it's not a quick fix. You got to sit down and think about what's our vision, what's our mission, what's our strategic business plan, what's our program going to look like, what's the project definition that we're going to take to the community, what's our case for support, why would you give to this program? And we've got to be able to put that in words that people are going to be easy buy-in. How do you put that in words that says, "Oh, hey, I get that. We can support that." In this community, without a doubt, there's legacy givers. There's people here that have made some resources, have been saving some resources, and have the capacity to put a name on a building, to put a name on a gymnasium, to leave their endowment, to leave their legacy for here. It'll be here forever for them and their kids and their grandkids. That to me is the way I would be thinking about how do we pull this off. How do we find those people, and then where does everybody have a role to play to make this happen? Because you all have a role. Is that making sense? And then you know, so to me the number one things is leadership. How do we sit down and identify people that will take some lead in this, be the champions for this. It can't be 5 board members or 6 board members to champion this kind of an undertaking. This takes a whole community to do this. Where do we fit? How do we become a part of this? And just start asking those questions. How can we be involved? We do want to be involved. Hey, I've got kids. I've got grandparents that have been here for a long time, and they're looking to support something. See, nobody takes it to them. You got to ask. You got to say, hey, Graham, you know what? There's a project going on right here. You need to see what's going on here. Let me take you over here. You build more than, you bond with your grandmother, but you also give her an opportunity to really leave a legacy that you and your family and everybody here will benefit from. That's the way I think. I think that the community has got to be united in this kind of effort. And you can't do this with a small number of people. And once you get that, you know, there's always challenges, but the leadership has to take those challenges and know what they are. They got to know what the obstacles are. They got to know what the pros and cons of how we get this done. And then you got to go out and hit the streets. Hit the streets on behalf of this project. And everybody talking the same language. When you get this program in its final frame, then I would say, we do a training and everybody's going to know exactly this is what it costs, this is where we're building, this is our case that we're building for, this is our naming opportunities to name rooms and facilities and programs. So everybody's got an idea, you know, hey, I don't have $100,000, but you know what, I could give $10,000. How do I do that? I can't give it to you all at once, but can I give it to you like $5,000 a year for 2 years? Somebody's got to answer that question. Can I give you $5,000 a year for 5 years? Yes, you can. So that's the kind of things that you got to really think about. Can I give you $100 a year for 10 years? Yeah. Because everybody's going to have different levels of financial capacity. But other things people bring could be programmatic capacity, volunteer capacity, leadership capacity, open the door for capacity, know everybody in the community capacity. Because that's the relationship stuff. Number one thing with all of this is building strong relationships that you want to build off of. Start with one, a year from now, here's what usually happens. I got $1,000 from Milgar. That was my first gift. Before, you know, this was the club before I was there, we would get $1,000. Relationship building for a year, $50,000, $100,000. 5 years of relationship, $1 million, $1.5 million. 10 years of relationships, $25 million gift. Plus, she did something here, Charles, right? I wasn't going to bring this up. But she left an endowment to Charles Wright in my name because she thought the work that I did was so important, where 10 Boys and Girls Club kids come to Charles Wright for free every year. Do you think I ever thought about any of this when I first got here? I was just trying to keep the doors open. So that's why we sat down with the people we had and started thinking. You know, my staff and my board members, we had to change the way we thought. We had to be can-doers. We had to have leadership. We had to have the ability to know that we got to go ask people. You know, coming to this town, this is the truth. And this is what amazes me. When I came here, you know, Bill, who knows Bill Phillip? Bill Phillip, everybody know Bill Phillip? Anybody know? Bill Phillip was the founder of Columbia Bank, right? He's been in this community for 50 years. I called him up one day and said, Bill, somebody told me I need to meet you. Well, who are you? I'm the new CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. Well, come on over, let's meet. You know what he says to me? You're the first Boys and Girls Club person that ever came over to talk to me face to face. And you wonder why nothing could get done. You can't send letters to people. You got to engage. You got to ask questions. You got to say, hey, what do you care about, Bill? It's not about us. What are you interested in? Is there something in this project that you would be willing to fund? Is there something here that you see that's really important to the community you would help us with? Would you help us get board members? What do you care about, Bill? And you know, before you know it, everybody that became real long-time supporters of our club, I knew who their family members were, I knew where they golfed, I knew everything I had to know about them. Because my dream was that I wanted every one of them to leave a legacy and put the Boys and Girls Club in their will. That's the ultimate dream. Because when I'm gone and they're gone, things continue to operate. And you have a lasting memory of somebody that started a program. So this thing for the Yazwa Scholarship, you know, I'm going to be dead and gone, and that's going to continue to have Boys and Girls Club. And that's a pretty expensive thing, right? It's a pretty important program. And they don't pay for anything. But they have to meet the qualifications. They have to be good students. They have to be the right people to come here. But this is going to benefit them with their education and give them opportunities for the future. And that's what all this is about. How do you give people opportunities for the future? So all you that are here, you know, just think about just takes one. Think to yourself, who do I know that could help and get involved in this project? How can I get involved in this project? And is this something we really need? And make sure you fill out that form. And if it's just giving your ideas and programmatically and things that you think are needed here and important here, tell everybody. Because that may be something that people are interested in and would support. And if we don't have it on here, we're missing an opportunity for support. So I'm not going to answer questions or anything like that. I just think my whole purpose was to try to get you a little excited and motivated about what this could mean to the community here. And also, hopefully, encourage you to, you know, put your hand up and say, you know, I can do something here in some way. And if you can do that, this will start running on its own. And then all of you are going to see, you're going to be a part of that. When you drive by that someday, you're going to say, hey, you know, I helped get that built. You know, my kids went there. My grandkids are going there. You know, that's one of the best programs around. Hey, it got my uncle's name in the arts and crafts room. Everything there that you're going to see here, people will support. But you got to ask. The asking is the key to everything, and it's the biggest fear. But have no fear. We're all too blessed to be stressed, and this is too important not to do it. You know what I mean? So with that, I'm gonna end. I don't want to take any more time, but I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to try to work with Sheila and her group a little bit, and try to coordinate a few things if I can. And you know, hopefully I'll be back in a few years from now. We'll see a community center here, and that would be just fantastic. So thanks again.
Wow, thank you, Gary. That was awesome. Where do you sign up, you know what I mean? Get your hands up. Let's get this thing built. Let's just do it. And that's what each person has to say. Let's just do it. I think some other company says that. It's a big outfit. Anyways, yes. All right, well, is anybody getting hungry? You raise your hands. We've been sitting here since like 5 o'clock. Everybody's got to be hungry, and we missed dinner. So Grassi's Restaurants, look what they put out there. There's shrimp, there's skewers, there's all kinds of things. But before we do that, know that you can still purchase with...
There's cash and there's credit cards. But why credit cards?
Well, you can use your, not mine, you can use your Visa, your MasterCharge, American Express, Discovery, to purchase your raffle tickets, because it's going to be a lot of fun. So after we're done eating...
And checks too.
Oh yeah, write some checks.
Make the checks
And so,
out of CCP.
and that's what this is all about. Giving, getting, and as Gary said, the legacy. And it's kind of cool that this is the start of a legacy. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah.
yeah, you guys, you know, got it all drawn up. You got your legacy going. I'm gonna have some shrimp. There'll be a little of my legacy going. And so, but go ahead and grab some of those. And then what is on the agenda next? So we're gonna have a little intermission, get something to eat, and then we're gonna have our raffle and drawing. Okay? So take it easy, enjoy everything. Thank you.